What's going on, everybody? Treasured up here in the garage with the Black R6. I'm gonna call it the BR6 from now on. For today's video, I'm gonna be changing up the rear taillight. Let's go. So this is the smoke rear taillight from JL Design. It is gonna take some soldering, so I'm actually gonna end up soldering the ends onto the connections from the bike. Step number 1, remove the rider and the passenger seat. Step number 2, remove the battery. I've already gone ahead and removed the battery. It's actually charging right there. My general rule of thumb is if you're doing any sort of electrical work on a motorcycle, I always take the battery out anyway, so that's why it's already there. Step number 3, we want to get this area cleared out to have as much space as possible. So my step number 3 will be to remove this center plastic piece right here by pushing on the 4 push pins. Go ahead and lift up from the back, manipulate it slowly as you pull it forward. 2 pieces right here just literally come right out. Step number 4, once again, want to get as much room over here as possible. So we're going to go ahead and remove our bracket that holds the seat, and we're going to remove the bracket that holds the tool right here. It's all with a 5mm Allen head bolt. So we're going to go ahead and remove these 4 bolts for the 2 brackets. Now that we got those 2 bolts out as well, we're going to go ahead and pull this way, away from the tail light, because there is a grommet right there, which actually goes on to that one. So when we do that, we're going to get the wire harness that's attached to this guy right here. Now on your stock bike, you'll have your signals right over here attached to them. This bike, obviously I took off the signals in a previous video, have not done the signals yet, so there's nothing plugged into them yet. At this point is grab your needles pliers, squeeze the back end down, and then push it through the holes to release this bracket. All right, step number 5, we're gonna go ahead and unplug this guy right here from the rear taillight assembly. It's got the little push knob right over there, push down on it and then pull outwards. Try and do this with one hand here. There we go. Thumb on the knob, which is right there, push down, and then it just pops out. And that thing is free now of any wires. Step number 6 is gonna be very simple. That's the rear tail light. There's gonna be 2 push pins right underneath. 2 push pins, 1, 2. We're gonna go ahead and take those off. As soon as you do that, this guy is gonna be loose. With an Allen key head, we're gonna go ahead and pop up the push pins. We're gonna, with my left hand, I'm gonna push the push pin down. There's one, grab the other one, and push that one out as well. Those are the 2 push pins. Once you do that, the next step would be, I believe step number 7 is to remove the assembly altogether. You're gonna go ahead and lift it upwards. I mean, you can lift it up so these 2 hit this bracket here, pull it back a tiny bit so the front pops down, get the front out, and then just bring it out the back. I'd rather bring it out the back than try and bring it out here because this is obviously a little bit closer than it is in the back. Step number 8, we are ready for the smoke taillight, which is right over here. This is the taillight that we're putting in there. It's a nice little design. Smoked, looks nice and sleek. Start with the wiring, pull the wiring through, put a bottom through, put the top in, make sure the top is secured all the way up, and then just place it on the side right there. Step number 9, we're gonna go ahead and grab the 2 push pins that we just took out from our stock one, and we're gonna push them into the slots, securing the tail light to the bike. And that's it. That is all that holds on to it. There's a tab at the top and the 2 push pins, which secures the light. Step number 10, time to connect the wiring to the bike. This smoke taillight has integrated signals. Because I've done this previously, I know the yellow is the right indicator and that the blue is the left indicator. Now, this is where it's gonna get a little trickier, because if you haven't done any sort of soldering or electrical on your own, I would definitely recommend taking it to your shop for at least this part to get the soldering done properly. I'll show you guys how I do it and how I solder, but again, if you're not comfortable with it, then just take it and get someone, or just get someone come to your place and quickly solder it for you at a much cheaper cost. All right, now, in order to make this a lot easier, because these are the original OEM connections, we're gonna move over here to the Fender that has the signals attached. As you can see, the signals have the white and black connectors, the OEM connectors, that connect into those guys. Now, what we're gonna do to make things a lot easier for us is we're gonna go ahead and cut the wire right over here. Now, if you didn't see the video of where I removed the Fender in the Fender Eliminator video, we're gonna go ahead and put that in the top right hand corner. Follow along with that until you get to obviously taking it off and replacing the signals. What I'm doing right now though is just getting the wiring ready for the rear tail light. If you don't want the integrated signals, you can just round these up, electrical tape around it, and just let it sit in here. It'll still work because you're plugging it into the harness It'll still work when you break, but again, it won't do any sort of integrated signal options. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and cut these two off, and then I'm actually just going to expose the wires by cutting these sleeves out so I can see the wire colors. Okay, so there's that right there. We've got that connector with the brown and black wire exposed. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing with this guy. All right, guys, we are still on step number 10. Step number 10 is obviously a longer step, and that's because we gotta do all this extra work to get the wiring connected to the harness. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna leave the length the way it is. I'm not gonna cut any down. I'm also gonna leave the length of these two the way they are. And this is why. I'm going to take the blue wire and solder it to the brown wire. Then I'm going to take the yellow wire and solder it to the green wire. Now these two will work in conjunction with each other. So obviously when you're signaling left, the left light comes on the tail light. When you're signaling right, the right light comes on. Now for video purposes, I'm going to show you how I solder things and then put everything back together neatly. But that's not going to be the end for this bike. This bike is getting signals left and right separate from the tail light, and they're going to go on the side of the fins just like they did on my bike. This is why for video purposes, I will keep the length of the wires as they are. But to be honest with you, if you're doing this and you're not putting signals and you're keeping only the signals on the tail light, you can make the wire a lot shorter. You can make the wires probably like this. You can probably cut it down to around there, like that. Have that soldered together like so. So I would probably leave that much right there, just so you have a lot less wire to actually hide away in here and make it look neat like OEM. All right, as I mentioned, for this video, I will be leaving it at the current length. Let's go ahead and start the process. First things first, I've got my handy little tool. This is my wire splitter. It's a wire cutter and a crimper at the same time. Go ahead and grab the wire and it'll expose the wire like so. So there is the wire exposed. When it exposes the wire, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna wind up the entire thing like so. Now, once you have it wound up, you grab your wire cutters, and I'm actually just gonna cut off from it like that, because this is how long I want the wire to be. Okay, I'm gonna put this aside. That's the blue wire. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the brown wire. Let's just try and make this a little bit straighter. Grab our tool once again, and we're gonna expose the wire on this one as well. So the wire is exposed. We're gonna go ahead and wind it up. Okay, once again, I'm not gonna leave it this length. I'm actually just gonna take it and I'm gonna cut off a bit right there. Okay, now we're gonna take our blue wire and our brown wire, and now I'm actually just gonna wind it up together. I'm gonna try and see if I can get this as close to the shot as possible here. Gonna do a little X, and along the X, we're gonna go ahead and start winding it up on each other, like that and like that. That's what the end would look like right there. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off. Pull that off. I'm going to go ahead and redo this. Go ahead and wind this back up again. And I do want to show you guys multiple times, so I'll show you guys a second time. But this time, I'm going to grab some shrink wrap. So I'm going to go ahead and put the shrink wrap on first. Once this is all soldered, the shrink wrap will come over both of them, and it will actually hide the solder, and it will secure it as well once we use our heat gun. Do the X, and then tightly wind it up on each other. That. And then we'll wind it up on this side as well. All right, and now we're ready to solder this guy together. I'm gonna be using this solder wire right here. It's 0.8 millimeter, it's very small. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off a piece like so. I'm gonna use this piece to solder this guy on. I probably won't use all of it either. I'll probably use this for both, but we'll go ahead and solder this guy on. All right, so here is my soldering tool. The light is on, which means it's on. I can actually adjust the temperature to make it hotter or colder. Let's see if I can get this in the right position so I don't knock the camera over and I do a good solder. You take your solder, you put it underneath the wire, you hold the wire to it, and you let the wire get a little hot. Now, what I'm going to do is what I like doing, is what I learned of how to do, is you put a little solder on the end of the tip like so, and then you put that onto your wire. And as that gets hot, you go ahead and come over here with your soldering wire. As you can see, it's now started to melt into it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move this aside because we want to get the entire area here. We'll wait for this part to heat up a little bit. There we go. Little tip right there. Don't need much. We'll move over to this side right here and we'll do the same process. All right, I put my soldering tool down, and you can come back here. When you do come back here, this is still going to be hot in some occasions, depending on how hot the wire is. Everything looks nice and solid. Nice. At this point, we're gonna grab our shrink wrap and we're gonna pull it over to this area like so. There we go. The shrink wrap, and then we're gonna grab our heat gun. All right, so I'm gonna turn the heat gun on. It's gonna be noisy, obviously, because the heat gun is noisy. And then I'm just gonna hold it, I guess an inch or two away. Probably 2 inches is better, depending on how hot you're making it. But then you're just gonna go back and forth, and you're gonna see this guy shrink around the soldering and just finish off this wiring right here. So let's go ahead and turn it on. So this is the lowest setting right now. It's actually nice and hot already. Here we go. Wave it back and forth. And as you can see now that the shrink wrap is shrinking around the wire. Once again, when you come back here, it is going to be hot. So just watch how you touch it. It is still hot. It's actually really hot. But as you can tell, the shrink wrap has surrounded the wire, and now when I pull on it, one solid wire. So we've got our connection done from the blue wire to the brown wire. Now we've got this guy, the connector, super easy, that it's actually a quick connect onto the OEM connections. Okay, I've gone ahead and soldered the yellow wire to the green wire, just like I did with the blue wire to the brown wire. So now we've got our wire running from the tail light to our signals. Now you might be asking, well, where does your ground go? Well, in this case, because we are hooked up to the tail light itself has its own ground, so we don't have to use these. Am I gonna cut these off? No, I am not. And for this video, this is what I'm gonna do. Now, if you only intend on using the tail light and not getting signals on the side, then you can take these, wind them up a tiny bit, grab some electrical tape, and tape it up. We can do the same thing to this side, wind it up, grab some electrical tape, and then that way you can just put these away. Remember, these get connected to the bracket that comes across right over here. Now, mind you, if you're only doing the tail light and you're not adding signals, you wouldn't leave this long anyway. But once again, even if you did leave it this long, you can just wind it up and we can go ahead and just tuck it away in here. Now, what I personally like to do is I like to grab some electrical tape and go from maybe here to here and just tape that up, look a little bit nicer. Now, in this case, I'm not gonna do that because I will be adding signals onto it in the next video, and I will be cutting this a lot shorter. But for now, this is pretty much it. The wiring is done. Let's go ahead and put the battery in, and I'll show you guys how this works. Okay, the battery is plugged in. Let's go ahead and turn the key on, show you guys how this is gonna look. So this is the running lights. It is all red. On the camera, because of, I guess, how the camera interprets the light, it actually shows yellow there, and I think there. To the naked eye, it's actually all red. It is all red. There's no yellow in here at all. Now, because we have our signals hooked up, there is our integrated signal, the 3 lines right across there, signaling left. So we got our 3 integrated LEDs on the right side for our right signal. There's our brake light. So that's our brake light, which is nice. And then we've got our signal. So there's the signal. And while you're signaling, you can go ahead and press on the brake light. And as you can see, it gets a lot brighter on the right side. That looks nice. Now, once again, the wiring is still all over the place. So I'm gonna go ahead and tidy everything up and put everything back together just to finish off the video. Okay, so at this point, I'm almost done putting everything back together. I think the only thing I have left are the 2 seats. I'm gonna just quickly show you guys what I did here. Obviously, the signal connectors get connected to this bracket that's holding our Allen tools. What I did with the ground wire is I just wound the end up and I just put a little bit of electrical tape and then everything is just wound up and then shoved underneath the actual main harness that goes into our taillight. So all that's left now is to put the seats on. Okay, the seats are back on. The taillight has been switched over to the smoked JL Designs taillight. That looks so nice. I'll put the link down in the description below, guys. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Next video is gonna be the signals. We're gonna be putting additional signals on the flares there and there. That's gonna look even better. It's gonna make you look even more visible with the signals. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below if you guys have any questions. Thanks for watching, and until the next time.